This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
I love it. BRD, welcome to another edition of BRD. By the way, if you're watching us, that means you've subscribed. Thank you very much. And we've got a great regular Reasonable Doubt this Saturday, right, Gary?
Yeah, that's right. We actually had a guest in studio, and he and his crew just left the building, and then Mark and I decided to record again, so we'd have a BRD. And Mark, you may not know this is our 20th episode of Beyond a Reasonable Doubt.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow. Okay. Well, we'll celebrate. I'll crack open a black cherry and take a sip.
And I've got a cream soda that looks enough like a beer. So
very good. I hate to keep giving them plugs, but one of my ex-employees just brought by a very nice bottle of DJ 1942 to thank me for her new job. So I may have to crack that open at some point. You know, I was reading an article, Gary. I was going to talk about or chat with you about the Merrick Garland Department of Justice making the argument this week, or continuing to make the argument that the Department of Justice should substitute in for the defense of Trump in the Jean Carroll lawsuit that has been brought in New York state court, and then it went to federal court and the judge denied it. They're now up at the Second Circuit, and it's surprising to me, actually very surprising, that this Department of Justice is now defending what many people thought was a tremendous overreach by the Bill Barr Department of Justice in the first place. And for those who don't remember, Jean Carroll was somebody who alleged that Trump had sexually assaulted her or raped her, that he then, as president, said famously denied it, and also she's not his type, and a couple of other things. She sued for defamation, presumably because the rape was outside the statute of limitations. The defamation would have brought you within the statute of limitations. Bill Barr's Department of Justice removed that action from state court, took it to federal court, made the argument that the Department of Justice was substituting in because he was president, and that the case should be dismissed. The trial court judge denied that. It's up in the Second Circuit. Most legal observers believe once Barr was out of office, once the Department of Justice got a new head, namely Merrick Garland, that would be the end of that. They would quietly withdraw the notice of appeal and it would be dismissed. Au contraire.
Right. You sent me some of the material on this and I was reading it as well. I'm obviously a bit of a layperson when it comes to this. Is it possible that there are still some of the rank and file in those offices who maybe aren't excited about the new administration and push this through without it getting reviewed by the new head, in Garland? I mean, it just doesn't seem like this sort of thing would happen without it being run by someone loyal to the new administration.
I don't understand unless I take that back. I do understand. There is what you are seeing, because this is not the first time so far that we've seen decisions that have been made in this Department of Justice that would seem to most observers have been unwound or undone because most people thought it was an overreach. There is a kind of an institutional inertia, I think, in the Department of Justice. And I find it hard to believe that this was not run up the flagpole at Main Justice. Find it hard to believe that they didn't sign off on this. And I also find it hard to believe, because it's been done, this process of substituting in under the code section and then moving to dismiss has been done in previous administrations. However, this seems to me to be such a reach legally that I admit to being surprised that they didn't quietly let this die and let the lawsuit go on. And I guess the speculation could be some thought, well, we don't want the Department of Justice to look overly politicized. I saw somebody making that argument, to which I say, Well, that's funny. That means that whenever you get in and you do something that looks overly politicized, so that your counterbalance is not to rock the apple cart in reverse, makes very little sense to me.
Right. And if that were in fact the case, the White House would probably not have done a whiplash style, statement saying that the Justice Department did not run this by them. The White House wanted to back away from this situation as fast as it could.
Yeah. And I think understandably so, because a lot of people commented, including, I think, then candidate Biden. When it happened, I think a lot of prominent legal scholars commented at the time, just as to how outside the box this kind of action was by the Department of Justice. And it is surprising to me. The other topic that I wanted to just touch on, I read an article, it was a long form article last night, which was somewhat fascinating to me, although some of the way that it was put together, I would probably challenge, but it was a long form, for lack of a better term, expose of the relationship between Mr. Wexner, who founded the limited department store chain and that went on to buy Victoria's Secret, and his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And it was a fascinating account. And now there are, and he has stepped down. And the legal aspect of this is when the whole Epstein thing broke, that organization had hired a couple of successive law firms to do a deep dive on the relationship and how this came to be and everything else. And I think as a prelude to the Ghislaine Maxwell case, it would not surprise me if this relationship of Epstein and the Wexners and the monies that were either transferred or then retransferred back at a certain point would not play a significant part in that trial, which is coming up and arguably could be this summer.
All right. Yes. And we here at Reasonable Doubt are very much looking forward to that trial so we can cover it and cover it on Beyond as well. As someone who has not read that article, when I hear those names together, the story that sticks in my head that was sort of more sensationalized, especially around the time of his death, wasn't it Mr. Wexner who gave him his $120 million New York penthouse, just gave it to him for free? Am I remembering right?
Supposedly it was $1. Supposedly, If you read the article, they couldn't find the transfer records. There was a lot of things that were in the article where they posited what the rumor was and then either debunked or couldn't debunk. I mean, I wouldn't mind having the author on and getting and doing a little getting some explanations, because some of the interesting stuff there was kind of an undercurrent that maybe there was more of a personal relationship. There was one of the guys who kind of makes an appearance in the article and then at the beginning drops in the middle and the end is a former financial advisor to Mr. Wexner, who apparently after he was fired for alerting him or sounding the siren of the Jeffrey Epstein kind of flashing red lights, that he was fired, subsequently got divorced. His wife left him. He became homeless and quite a tragic story and kind of his vindication. He might actually be an interesting person to hear from as well. But it kept coming back to the idea that there was this amazing trust on the behalf of Mr. Wexner with Jeffrey Epstein, number one. Number two, that all kinds of people in their circle were sounding the alarms, including an ex-security person who worked closely there, who kept accusing Epstein of being a con man or characterizing him as such, and that there was some, I don't want to call it a Svengali-like hold, but that Wexner had relinquished quite a bit of his financial controls and fortune to Mr. Epstein, and that Epstein had a kind of free rein, so to speak, with an enormous fortune. I mean, billions of dollars. And the whole way that it was set up in the article, kind of weaved in a lot of things that appeared to be rumor or innuendo that couldn't be confirmed, along with quotes from various people at various times that tended to have a certain viewpoint that I thought was fascinating. Also, Alan Dershowitz was quoted liberally throughout the article. Looks like he may have been interviewed or given some time to kind of point out various things. So maybe Dershowitz as well needs to come on and revisit us and give us his insight into this as well.
Alan is a frequent, returning guest, and he's welcome anytime, and he knows it. All right, so I'll close this out with an Adam-style question. After reading what you've read and knowing what you know and seeing this Ghislaine Maxwell trial on the horizon, if you are Wexner, are you nervous?
Yes. I think there's somebody had commented, and I probably am paraphrasing it not quite accurately, but he wishes he'll basically, one would wish that they weren't around, basically that they had faded out into the sunset when this trial comes up, because there's just there's a whole lot here that apparently, or a whole lot more that may be kind of unveiled during the trial.
Well, we'll be watching closely, and we'll be covering on Beyond Reasonable Doubt. Please go subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Reasonable Doubt Podcast. That is the only place to watch Beyond. And we have a special guest coming up on Saturday that you're going to want to watch as well. So go subscribe now so you'll get the videos. And I'd also like to thank our sponsor, Oklahoma Smokes. You can find them online at itsoklahomas.com. So that's itsoklahomas.com.
Thanks so much. Bye, Gary.
Bye, Mark.
Thanks for listening to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes coming soon.